So a huge thank you to my friends over at Banggood for sending this over. This is the Retevis Ailunce H1. It's DMR, APRS, VHF, UHF, and it's very easy to use. So I'll go into a bit more detail on that later, how I programmed it up. You can see what I got in the box. I got the manual, the charger, the belt clip, USB-C cable. You can charge USB-C on the battery, and I got the strap. So I'm just going to quickly talk about the controls on the radio. You've got 3 preset buttons on the top, on the left at the top, and on the left at the bottom. The transmit button is in the middle. Very smooth, clicky button. Quite unlike anything I've seen before, but I do like it. It's just unusual. It's just very, very smooth. On the top, you've got a volume and a channel selector knob, and they are also very smooth. So if you've got wet hands, you'll slip on them, or if you've got sweaty hands. Lovely colour screen. The radio has GPS. It does take a long time to get a fix, but it does do it eventually. I have had it working on APRS, and on the back is a USB-C socket, so you can charge it from a USB-C cable. So I'm just going to talk about the menu structure and the controls and going up and down the menus, because a lot of people get confused with DMR. And the bottom left button, the star button, that moves it from A to B. The bottom right, the hash, that goes from zone to memory mode. And up in the top right, the red button, if you long press that, it goes into whatever line you're on. I'm on line A. That will go into VFO. Long press it again, we're back to menu mode, memory mode. And so I'll press menu. And I am in, I'm on line A, which is analog. So if I press menu, actually I'll go to a digital channel and then you'll see the digital settings. So if I take it down to B, which is my connected to my open spot, if I press menu, you've got contact. That is contacts. In there I've created a contact list. You know, I've got various talk groups in the DMR section. You can make a new contact, manual dial. You can dial in a group call or a private call, but it doesn't have the flexibility of the Anytone with the digital hold times. Talk alias, that will show people's call signs automatically. I haven't bothered putting in the DMR database. I enabled this initially, talk alias, and I haven't seen anyone whose call sign and name hasn't come up. So I don't think you get a lot of extra information on this radio if you did put the DMR database in. So going back to where we were, messages, send text messages. I don't know if anyone uses that. Call log, that's for digital. Scan, you can scan for color codes, scan list. Frequency range set, so you can set an upper and a lower limit. Frequency scan mode. So we got down to scan. Zone, you know, you can make a zone, you can add channels to a zone. Settings, that's the important one. We're going to go through that in a moment. Peak position, that's GPS, of course, on and off. GPS mode. GPS info. APRS, we'll talk about this later on. Digital monitor, that lets you listen to something on a different slot if you're on a repeater and there's 2 conversations going on. Emergency alarm. Radio ID. That's where you can put several radio IDs. You know, if you're on a radio club and you've got a lot of people, you could put different IDs in there, and you can set the actual ID you want to use in the channel setup. One touch call, that's very useful. When I'm in DMR mode, I've set it so that when I press the preset, I've set it to do a group call 4000, so I can unlink using that button. Weather settings doesn't apply in the UK, it's got FM radio. So I'm just going to talk about the settings menu because that's the main one where everything is. So press menu, go down to settings. And it's been very cleverly organised into 3 sections. Everything about making a channel, whether it's analog or digital, is in radio channel info. Radio settings is optional settings that that you can put in, like turning it from single line to double line. And device info is just the firmware version you're on. So let's go through these 3 options. So channel info, remember this is all about setting up a channel. You set it up in the VFO, and then when you've got it working, whether it's a DMR repeater, an FM repeater or simplex, you go to new channel and you give it a name and you tell it where to save it. So we're in channel info, delete channel, channel type. So if you want to go from analog to digital or a mixture of both, you can set it in here. So I'm in a digital channel, you saw that earlier. You can give it a channel name, receive frequency and transmit frequency. This is different to doing it with an offset. I quite like this method. Although you can have an offset as well. Talk out timer, transmit power. I think it's high, mid, low. Transmit contact. So when you're in DMR mode, you've got, when you key up on a hotspot or a repeater, you've got to have that channel associated with a talk group. So you saw I was on 91 there. Well, I am on 91. I can't remember if I showed you it working. But if you go to transmit contact, you can have priority or local. And if I go down to transmit admit, that just allows it so you can turn off transmit and a few other options. Radio ID. So the radio ID I showed you earlier is where you create several IDs, and in here you select the one you want to use. So I've got that set as my own. Color code on a hotspot is normally 1. Time slot, it's also 1 on my hotspot. This is the open spot 4 Pro. Encrypt, we don't use that. Receive group list, I don't use this. This is normally, when you're on repeaters, and some systems use receive group list. Lone worker, APRS receive, so it does have APRS in digital, I believe. Right, DMR mode. So this is a hotspot, so I've got it in simplex, but you can have it in repeater mode if you're going through a repeater. Talk around, reverse, alarm, ranging. So remember, I've got it in digital mode, so you're seeing all the digital settings here. So it does have quite a comprehensive list of radio settings. I'm just going to bring some audio up so you can hear it.
Romeo, this is Charlie Alpha 3 Alpha the Tango. Bye bye, my friend. And it's too happy.
So on that information you saw there on the screen, hopefully someone else will key up. This is using talk alias. I'm on talk group 91. That's the ID number, that's the call sign and the person's name. And that is using talk alias. That is, you don't get much more with downloading the DMR database. And like I say, every single person that's keyed up, I've seen their call sign and name. So let's just go through the settings.
Hotel Bravo, Nicholas from India. It's Terminal for 3 Alpha Hotel Tango.
Just showing you some audio. Right, menu, settings. We're just going to show you the radio settings, which are just settings which are not to do with making a channel. So you can turn the beep on and off, backlight, day and night mode. You can have a lighter screen. So I've got it on. I've got it on night mode, makes it dark. Brightness, of course. You can mine's set to be on all the time. You can have it going off. Keypad lock, lock mode, key lock, LED. Power on password, Vox, channel display mode. So I've got it as the frequency and the name on channels I've got programmed in. Hidden mode. I did have a problem where I couldn't key up and I think I had hidden mode on, so I'd avoid that. That does exactly what it says. Auto power off, language. I mean, it's quite a comprehensive list. Menu exit time. I quite like how some of these radios have got this now. You know, you go into a menu like I'm in now, and you're waffling away, and it, before you know it, it comes out the menu, and then you've got to go back in there. But I've got it on infinite. I think that's a really good feature. You know, you can take your time, do it carefully, do it properly. Power on picture, background. So I've got it on background black. I'll just show you the list. You can have a DIY picture, default red, green, blue, black. So I'll put it back on black. So that's the background. Loads of settings here. I'm not even halfway yet. Standby colour. That's the colour of the writing, the text. So like the Anytone, you can change the colour of different channels, of different zones. You can say which is the main channel. You can have it in single mode or double mode. I prefer it in single mode. Makes it easier to understand what's going on. Message alert, so you can change the alert. Call ring. Frequency step, so we know what that is. That's the step rate. Squelch open level and squelch normal level. I couldn't get it to hear what's below the squelch level. If I set them both low, I still wouldn't hear what's below. What I had to do was set a key to be monitor. So I press that and I can hear what's going on below the squelch. Power save, burst tone, mic gain level. Had some good reports on it. Fixed time mute. Man down, that's a DMR feature. This is key settings. So do you remember I said that I programmed this one for a one touch call in DMR. So I press that and it will do a group call 4000. Well, I also did this one, the bottom preset for the monitor, so you can hear what's below the squelch. So you've got 1, 2, 3, third one on the top, keys that you can set. So I'll just show you. You've got short and long for the top, the side and the lower side preset key. CTCSS tail, no signal tail, channel switch type. Not tried that one. Time zone. If you're using APRS, you want all the time and everything correct. I have had it working on APRS, although I couldn't reply to a message. I was getting APRS but I didn't see an option to reply to a message. Time display on and off, time set, Roger bleep, radio mute, and the list goes on. Quite huge. Not as many settings as the Anytone. But that is radio settings, and device info is just, it just shows you your ID and your firmware and everything in there. And now I'm going to show you how I programmed it for DMR and how I programmed it for APRS. So a lot of people get confused programming DMR.
First contact, Julie.
A lot of people get confused programming it on DMR, but once you eliminate a lot of the menus, it's quite clear what you're doing. And I can program it. I can program this out the box for DMR in about 5 minutes because I've spent many hours figuring it out. So to get this working on DMR, what I had to do was I had to create a DMR ID. You know, put my DMR ID in. So you can put from the main menu, radio ID. You can put several IDs in. I think I just put one in there. And once you've created a DMR ID, well, entered the DMR ID, I created some talk groups. So I went to new contact and made a talk group. I gave it the ID code. So if it was talk group 91, you'd put 91 in there. Call type, that's group call. You've got group and private in there, and I gave it a name. So you make a contact, you go to the bottom and you save it, and then they'll appear in this list, in the contacts list. So this was the sequence. I put my radio ID in, I created digital contacts to link to, and then I went to settings and channel info, and I had it in the VFO on the correct frequency. I put it on channel type, which is digital, and if you did that, the receive and transmit frequency will be in there. If it's a repeater, you can put an offset. And I set the contact, the talk group that the radio will connect to on this particular channel. So transmit contact, it's not that one, it sounds similar. Color code, time slot. I've lost it now. Transmit priority, that's it, transmit priority, and then you select the talk group. So this is on talk group 91. So once your radio is all set up on the right frequency in digital mode with the right color code and slot, which is 1 and 1 on a hotspot, color code and slot. Once you've got it set up in the VFO, I'll just put it in VFO mode, see if it's set up in digital. Long press that. So my hotspot is on 439.200. And you can see it's picking up traffic, but I'm in analog mode, so I went to settings, channel info, and I set it as channel type digital. Just digital, and I also have to go into channel info and set the color code and the slot, which is 1 and 1. So we're in VFO and hopefully it will work. So there we are, we're in VFO mode and it's working. So to save this as a channel, I just went to menu, settings, channel info, new channel. You give it a channel number, 22. I'll do that so it's not near my main channels. give it a name. Use the hash on the bottom right to change it to numbers. 91, delete, 91, confirm. And I'm not going to put it in, but that's how you put in a digital channel. It's just the same for analog, but you've got different settings which are not visible while we're in DMR mode.
Echo Alpha 1, Bravo Delta Victor, Kilo Charlie 1, Sierra Sierra Whiskey. I live in a beautiful spot known as Mount Desert Island, right off the coast of Maine. A small island, beautiful mountain.
So now I'm going to show you how I set up APRS. You've got to make sure your GPS is on. So you go to menu, position. Of course you've got GPS on and off, but you want the right sort of GPS. You want GPS if you're in the UK or America. There's, I think, BDS, I think that's the China system. If you've got them both on, it will take longer, even longer. So I've got GPS selected. And then I went to APRS modem. And I had that switched on, analog. This video is not, I'm not going to cover digital APRS. So I've got analog APRS on, got GPS on, analog APRS set. So press to talk. You can have press to talk report. So to send a message, you can have it go automatically or when you press to talk. Mine's automatic. My call sign, so you put your call sign in and you have an SSID. If you're on a handheld, it's 7. That just gives people a symbol that you're on a handheld. And you can put your comment in there, you know, it's just a testing. And digipath. And it's got some in by default. And I just use Y1 to Y1, Y1 to Y2. You can set these presets in the computer software. So you can change the path to the International Space Station. Just change the frequency and change the path. And then you can use a different path for the ISS. But I've got Y1, Y2. My symbol, so you can choose a car or a bike or something. Transmit frequency. Now it does have these presets in already, so you've got the American APRS. It doesn't have the UK one in, but I just chose the option select channel, and then it's not using these presets. Instead, it's using the channel that it's on. If I click select, it doesn't give you a chance to choose the channel, but when you want to use APRS, you have it on the channel. So that's digital APRS, my position. I think in there you can have it on GPS or manual. Yeah, so you can set it. If you don't want your actual location to be shown, you can have it on manual. If you want the real location, you can have GPS, APRS units. You can change between feet and meters and that sort of thing in there. APRS transmit delay. So I think I left that default. Transmit power. So I've got mine on high. I think it's 6 or 7 watts this radio. Beacon transmit. So I've got it on automatic. Beacon interval. I've got that every 1 minute it goes out. APRS ringer. So it rings when you get a message. Analog APRS message. So if anyone has messaged you individually, you'll see the message there. And to see the list of stations that you have heard, it goes in here, analog APRS list. So if I go in there, hopefully you'll see loads of them. There's me messing about, messaging it to myself, and I'll include a clip at the end where you can see me using APRS. Sorry, I keep saying the wrong thing. This is quite a complicated video. So I've got a whole list there, and it's actually handy that it's at the bottom, because if you're doing APRS and you want to see where your messages are, you click on that and you press up and it goes to the bottom, and you can see if you've got a message, or you can see the list of stations quickly if you go out the top of the screen. So I'm in VFO mode. I'll just put it back in memory mode. So I'm doing it too quick there. I think it's because they're talking. Right, so I am in memory mode there now. There's not a lot of info when you're in this screen. I couldn't tell whether I was on VFO or not. So I'm in B. I'm on line B, digital channel 2. So channel 3, yeah, so I'm on channel 2. And to get this on APRS, I put a channel in, which is APRS. So I've got it there. And I'm just on a rubber duck in the house, but I'll show you APRS running when I receive some contacts. This is the UK frequency, 144,800. If you want to use the ISS, it's 145,825, I think. And the SSID is, no, it's the path is Alpha Romeo India Sierra Sierra to do the ISS. Haven't done that yet. Anyway, I'm going to play you a clip of APRS working. You've got to wait for a GPS lock. And I'm in this right in the centre of my house, and it took a while, but I did get a lock.